Hello folks, we are going to continue on with some modeling of fraction multiplication as a way to try to understand how we get the products of fraction multiplication. And so this method focuses on using grids and then coloring to show fraction multiplication. And so what it says here is that we can shade grid paper to multiply a fraction by fraction. So the first instruction says to draw a rectangle of 12 squares on grid paper, which we have done. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to shade half the rectangle. And so I'm going to shade it this way. So I have half of it shaded. And then what I'm going to do is I need to keep that shaded over here as well to show that it's still being shaded. And what I need to do is I'm going to shade a third of the shaded area. Notice that it's broken up into 3 different columns. So I can take this section right here and shade that section. So I've shaded a third of the shaded area by shading over that first stuff. And so what we're doing is we're actually showing, and I'll write it up here, this instruction here says to describe the fraction with a double shading, we write this. We're showing a third of a half. Okay, we've showed a third of a half. Now, to write that, what we have totally here, a third of a half, is we have 2 out of a total of 12 squares. So if I just create some space up here, we have a third of a half equaling 2 out of 12 squares, which when we simplify it down equals 1/6. Okay, we have a third of a half equals 1/6. Now we can rewrite that because we know that when we see the word of, we rewrite it as multiplication. So we say that a third times 1/2 equals 1/6 in simplest form. A third times a half equals 1/6. Okay, and so what we're going to do is we're going to get a quick chance to do a couple more examples where we now have a half of 2/3. And so I need to draw out my grids. So there's a 2 here as my denominator, so I'll draw a 2 out here, and then my 3 denominator. So I draw 3 that way. And so I'll just use the same colors. So 2/3 is my second number, so that's what I have to draw, that's what I have to shade in first. So here's 2/3 of this rectangle, shaded in, and then of that shaded stuff, I get to color in half of that. So now what I end up with is out of those 6 boxes, I have 2 out of those 6 that are colored in. And that simplified down, if I want to rewrite that, 1/2 times 2/3, this simplifies down, is 1/3. Okay, let's keep going. Example B, 1/4 of a half. So my one denominator here is a 4, so I draw 4 long and then 2 down. And then I shade in a half first. So half of this rectangle is shaded in. And then of that, I shade a quarter of that half. So just this box here. So I can do my rewriting, say that a quarter, I'll just do the rewriting, times a half. And I have an 1/8 that's now totally shaded in. Okay, so 1/8 is my answer. Alright, let's keep going. So this one I have a 4 and a 2. So again, 4 long, 2 down. Okay, and so I'll color in a half. And then I'll color in 3/4 of that. So 3 out of those 4 sections get colored in. And so I can rewrite this, 3/4 times 1/2. And then I have 3 out of the 8 sections total colored in. Lastly, 4 sections, because this denominator is 4, that denominator is 3. So we go down this way. And so I color in 1/3 to start with, which is that much. That's a third of that box. And then of these 4 squares I've colored in, I need to color in 3 more because it's 3/4 of that third. So I rewrite it over here. 3/4 times 1/3 gives me 3 out of 12. 3 out of 12 simplifies down to 1 out of 4. Okay, so that's using grids. Now that one is important because we need to know about that for our next lesson, which is 5.9, I think. Anyway, have a great night.